Hello everyone, so I'm back with my next video. I hope you all have derived some benefit if you have seen my earlier videos on different topics. So this video will be on control and coordination, the second chapter of biology of class 10 NCERT book. So when we say control and coordination, in the life process chapter we have seen that there are different processes which goes on in our body. We are having our food is getting digested, it is getting absorbed, we are breathing, we are moving around, there's transportation going on, excretion going on. So whatever function is going on in our body, all the function needs to be controlled and coordinated. It needs to occur in a proper sequence and in a proper order. So that order and that control is brought about by two systems in human beings. One is the neural system, another one is the hormonal system. So basically we are having two types of control mechanism. We have neural control and hormonal control. So first we'll be discussing about the neural control. So the neural control is done by the nervous system. So first of all we need to understand what is the classification of the nervous system. So nervous system can be classified into two parts. One is the CNS or the central nervous system, another one is the peripheral nervous system. So when we say central nervous system in human beings, so suppose there is the brain, and from the brain the spinal cord arises. So the brain and the spinal cord together, it forms the central nervous system. And peripheral means periphery, on the side. So from the brain as well as from the spinal cord, different nerves will arise. So all these nerves forms the peripheral nervous system. Now these nerves are of two types, motor nerves and sensory nerves. Sensory nerves are those nerves which will carry signals from the sense organs. We have those 5 sense organs. So from all the 5 sense organs, the stimulus or the impulse will be carried by these nerves and handed over to the peripheral nerve, to the central nervous system. And motor means after, and that's why they are called afferent. Afferent means to bring to. So from your different parts of the body, the sensation will be brought to the central nervous system. Now in the central nervous system, the information will be processed. After processing, the processed information, to show a reaction, the processed information needs to go back to your muscles and all. So that information will flow back through another set of nerves which are called the motor nerves, and that forms the efferent nervous system or the motor nerves. Now these motor nerves which will carry the processed information from the central nervous system to the different parts of your body, they are again classified into two types, autonomic nervous system and somatic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system means this consists of those nerves which will supply to those parts of your body where you cannot control the functioning. It is automatic. It happens on its own. For example, like peristalsis in your intestine. Then suppose the heartbeat. All these are controlled by autonomic nervous system. And somatic nervous system means those parts of the body which you can control. For example, movement of your fingers. So these are the two types of nervous system. This autonomic nervous system again is further classified into two types, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic means which will activate the system in emergency situation, and parasympathetic means which controls that particular organ, that automatic organ where you are, that involuntary organ where you are not able to control. Under normal condition, this set of nerves will work. So this is the overall classification of the nervous system. Now when we say nerves, so nervous system basically is made up of nerves. Okay, so nerves means it is a collection of your nerve cells. You know that in class 9 also you have got, just like any wire, inside the wire you have lots of finer copper wires. So same way, nerves are a collection of nerve cells, or nerve cells are called neurons. Now we'll be basically looking at the description of a typical neuron. Now why I am calling it a typical neuron? Because there are different types of neuron. This is not the only type, but most of the neuron looks like this. So a typical neuron has a cell body. Since there is a nerve cell, So it has a cell body which is called the cyton and a long extension which is called the axon. So you should remember there are neurons where you will not find the axon, where there are more than one axons, bipolar neurons are there, like that different types are there, but this is the most typical type. Now this cyton or the cell body, it has fine hair-like projections. These hair-like projections are called dendrites. Since this is the cell body, it will have cytoplasm, and in the cytoplasm there will be the nucleus, and this axon will end in some root-like structure with bulb-like ends, and these root-like structures are called nerve endings. These axon is covered with a sheet, and this sheet is called the myelin sheet. Just like we have your insulating cover around wires, like that there is also a insulating cover which is called the myelin sheet. Now this myelin sheet is constricted at certain intervals, and these constrictions are called nodes of Renn-Weyr. So overall these are the parts of a typical neuron. Next we will be discussing certain terms and how impulse flows through neuron. So if you see here, when we talk about the impulse, so the definition of impulse is the electrical signal created in the neurons as a result of any stimulus. So any kind of signal which is flowing through the neurons, that is called an impulse. It can be a sensory impulse, it can be a motor impulse, different types of impulses are there. Next is stimulus. So stimulus, suppose you touch a hot object, you will withdraw your hand. Okay, when you see any of your favorite food, your tongue starts salivating. So whenever there is any change in our external or internal environment of a person, there is a change, and in response to that change, an impulse gets created. Suppose there is a loud bang. What you will get startled, right? Your heartbeat will become fast. But if that loud bang is occurring very far away, suppose hundreds of kilometers away, obviously you will not startle. So the change in the environment should be able to create an impulse in your nerves. If the impulse is created, only then such a change is called a stimulus. It can be any kind of change, internal or external change. Now what is response to stimuli? Stimuli is plural of stimulus. What is response to stimuli? Any reaction shown by an organism in response to a stimulus is called response to stimuli. So any kind of reaction that you are showing. Suppose there is a bright flash of light, you shut your eyes. Okay, a mosquito is sitting on your hand. You try to snap that mosquito. So those kind of reaction that we show is called response to stimuli. So how does the impulse travels? Let's have a look. Now you should remember neurons are connected similar to how we connect the cells in a battery. You know that in a battery, the negative end of a cell is connected with the positive terminal of the corresponding cell. Similarly, when the neurons are connected, the nerve endings of a neuron is connected towards the dendrites of the next neuron. So whenever the dendrites, always you should remember that the impulse is created in response to the stimulus. The impulse will be created in the dendrites, and in the dendrites that electrical signal will be created. So actually everything is in the form of faint electrical signals which are called impulses. So that electrical signal will travel from the dendrites through the cyton, through the axon, up to the nerve ending. Upon reaching the nerve ending, there is a gap. The dendrites and nerve endings, these are not physically joined. They have a gap between them, and that gap is called a synapse. I have shown in enlarged way here. So in that gap synapse, some chemicals will be released. Those chemicals are called neurotransmitters, and those neurotransmitters will create a fresh impulse or a fresh electrical signal in the dendrites of the next neuron. This is how the impulse travels through the neurons. So here I have shown when the impulse reaches the nerve ending, in the nerve ending, in response to the electrical signal, some membrane bound vesicles or membrane bound bodies are created, and in those bodies some chemicals are formed. These chemicals are called neurotransmitters. One of the very common neurotransmitters is acetylcholine. It is acetylcholine. You will get in higher class. So these vesicles will travel towards the your nerve ending, and it will burst open, releasing the neurotransmitter in the synapse region. And these neurotransmitters, when they come in contact with the dendrites, it will create a fresh impulse, and the impulse will travel further down. In a similar way, nerves create our muscular movement. Suppose this is my finger. If I prick it with a needle, instantly I will pull back my finger. Now why it is so? Because how that reaction is created. So I am pulling back my finger means the muscles are actually contracting. So what helps these muscles to contract, or rather how an electrical signal or an impulse creates muscular movement, which is regarded as a reaction from our body. So suppose an impulse is coming, a motor impulse. Motor impulse means an impulse which has been processed by the central nervous system, and that processed information is coming to your reaction. Normally we show reaction with our muscles. So that is the only way by which we can show reaction. You smile, you grumble, you move your hand, you move your leg, you move your body, you move your neck. Whatever you do, all are due to muscular movement. So in this motor impulse, when it comes, the nerve endings of motor impulse, these nerve endings of motor impulse, they are in close association with the muscle fibers. And this close association of the nerve ending of the motor nerve and the muscle fibers, it is called the neuromuscular junction. And so when the impulse will reach to the nerve ending of the motor nerves, similar vesicles will be created which will contain neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters will be released into this neuromuscular junction, and there are ways by which these neurotransmitters will diffuse into the muscle fiber. Now once they diffuse into the muscle fiber, there is a kind of chemical reaction which occurs between the muscle fibers. Your muscle fibers are like this. If I can show you properly, your muscle fibers are like this. So when a reaction is taking place, the muscle fibers, they simply slide inside each other. The moment they will slide inside each other, what happens to the overall length of the muscle fiber? The muscle fibers will constrict, thereby leading to muscular movement. So that is how an impulse creates a muscular movement, and we are able to show our response to any kind of stimulus. So this is the basic and the first part. In the next video, I'll be discussing about reflex action, the importance of reflex action, and after that we'll be discussing about the structure of the human brain. Thank you.